How are you guys doing? It is Wednesday, September 2nd, 2020. Here in this quarantine, I'm James Sims. And for this episode of The Elite, I'm going to get into Brandon Ingram winning the Most Improved Player of the Year in the 2019-2020 season because he's had a very interesting career up until now. And I haven't officially added him as one of my elites as of yet. But I think eventually he'll make his way onto that list because of the way he's been progressing and just how good he's been. Because he's never really not been good. He's just been progressing at his own rate. Because you do have to remember the fact that he still is pretty young. He's still 23. He just played his age 22 season. He's still very young, and for the amount of production he's been able to do in the NBA, and to add on to the fact that he was an all-star in the NBA for the first time in his career, in his very first season with the New Orleans Pelicans at the age of 22, it makes you think that he's gonna have he has a very bright future ahead of him. But with that said, let me get into who Brandon Ingram is before I get into how this season separated him from the other players in terms of his improvement from last year to this year. So I just wanted to make this video, especially on his birthday. Now that the award has been named, he is a 23-year-old wing. He's about 6'7", 6'8", coming out of Kinston, North Carolina, the North Carolina area. He eventually committed to Duke, where he was a one and done. And he would play well at Duke to get drafted second overall in the 2016 NBA draft by the Los Angeles Lakers. And he played on the Lakers for 3 seasons. In his first season, it was difficult. His first season was the season after Kobe Bryant retired, and this is when the Lakers were like not incredibly good. In 2016-17, they finished with 26 wins, the least amount of wins that they've had. That they've had since Brandon Ingram's played in the league. The least amount of wins one of his teams has ever had while playing in a season in his career. He would average 9 points, 4 rebounds, and 2 assists as a 19-year-old. He shot 40% from the field, 29% from three. He shot 62% from the line. Not everything was going well, but of course in his age 20 season, you're getting everything together. For the first time, he started all his games because he started only half of his games his rookie season. In 2017-18, the Los Angeles Lakers, the year before they got LeBron, they finished with 35 wins, and I think that was the year that Lonzo Ball was a rookie and Brandon Ingram started to kind of get it going. He would average 16 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, almost a steal, almost a block per game, shooting 47% from the field, 39% from three. He also shot 68% from the line. But of course, Brandon Ingram, that was his age 20 season, whereas like the average age of the NBA was at least half a decade older than that. So, I mean, he's still kind of getting his own. He's still figuring out as a young kid because his second year in the NBA would have been his junior year in college. And he's still averaging 16 points a game in the NBA. And then in 2018-19, which would have been his senior year in college, in his last year with the Lakers and LeBron's first year there, and the year that we're comparing the Brandon Ingrams, he would start in all 52 games that he played in a season where the Los Angeles Lakers would go 37-45, the most wins any of his teams have had to date. But yeah, last year when LeBron got hurt, they were on trajectory to that they were on pace to make the playoffs, but then they lost a big stretch of games and they completely missed the playoffs. In the season, Brandon Ingram in his age 21 season will go on to average 18 points, which at 21 is still incredibly impressive. He'd average 5 rebounds and 3 assists in the season while shooting 49% from the field, 33% from three, which would be down from his last year. That was the only thing that was down. Along with his free throws as well. But his numbers started to go up. His points, his rebounds went down, so did his assists. But he shot better from the field. He played less games, but he was definitely getting it going. And that was his last year in Los Angeles. But the next year, the Lakers, in order to get Anthony Davis, they traded Brandon Ingram along with a bunch of other pieces to New Orleans. to give them pieces around Zion Williamson to help support their number one pick that they would have in the draft. But Brandon Ingram, I believe, would be their biggest pickup of the offseason, which who would have the biggest impact on them this year. This year, in 2019, 2020. Brandon Ingram would start all 62 games in a season where the New Orleans Pelicans, they finished 13th in the West, which is worse than he did on the Lakers. And they'd finished 30-42 with a 417 win percentage, which was not better than the last two seasons, but it was better than his worst season where he only won 26 games in an 82 game season for the Los Angeles Lakers. The Pelicans didn't do all that well, but of course they're a young team with a bright future. But for Brandon Ingram, he would go on to be named to his very first All-Star game in his career. He would go on to average 23.8 points per game, 6.1 rebounds, 4.2 assists. He would average he would average 20 points for the first time in his career, let alone 23.8. He'd average 6 rebounds for the first time in his career, 4 assists for the first time in his career. He'd average at least a steal for the first time in his career. He'd average 0.6 blocks. He averaged 33.9 minutes, the most minutes up to date, but I mean, it's the same as he did in Los Angeles. He would shoot 46% from the field, and with one more field goal made per game. He would go on to average. He would shoot 39% from three, which is the best percentage he'd shot to date. He would also shoot 85% from the free throw line. The first time he shot at least 70% from the free throw line for a season in his career. But following this season, Brandon Ingram, I believe, has asserted himself into being one of the NBA's best young players, especially following his age 22 season. The fact that he just turned 23 shows that he has his entire career ahead of him. And with that said, I would go on as to say that this would be Brandon Ingram's official elite profile to add him into the ranks of other young players. I'll probably I'll make an official profile next year, but with that said, I think Brandon Ingram should be considered as an elite young player in the NBA today. And following this season, I think the rest of NBA fans are aware of what Brandon Ingram is doing, and considering he's only now 23 and he has his whole career ahead of him, just like I said with my other elite, the profiles of my other elite young players, is that I feel like as of right now, as a sports fan, I feel like it'd be really fun to watch these young careers blossom into potential Hall of Fame careers, especially when they're showing how good they are at this young an age. Not many NBA players earn their first All-Star game at 22. This may be his 4th season in the league, but he still is 22 years old. And considering, I mean, this dude could very well make a 9-year stretch into his age 30 season where he goes off and makes 9 straight All-Star games in his career. But I'm just saying, like, he can start that now. With that said, I want to appreciate you for listening to all 8 minutes all 8 minutes of this piece. Once again, like I said, it is September 2nd, 2020 out here in this quarantine. I just wanted to put you guys on to Brandon Ingram, as he did win the Most Improved Player, and I just want to say it straight up here and now that the name Brandon Ingram will not go away in the NBA for quite some time, and I think he's gonna be one of the players from Duke that's gonna make Coach K very proud for what he's gonna do in the NBA. But once again, I want to thank you for listening to my piece, and peace out. I hope all is well during the quarantine.